Good morning, guys. It's Brooke here from the Vintage Gardener. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna do a talking head video. I don't really like doing these type of videos because I think they're kind of boring to watch, but I don't want to make the next video too long. So one of the questions I frequently get asked is, where do you get your garden inspiration? And although I would love to sit here and tell you that I'm just such a creative person, these interesting ideas just kind of like bubble up. That's not entirely true. I am creative, and certain ideas I do get, from they do come, they just bubble out. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of elements in my garden that I have seen other places, and I've incorporated it into a way that works. So, I know for a lot of people, they get their garden inspiration from magazines, which I do too. And a lot of times I know people follow a lot of like YouTube gardeners like myself, and some people get a lot of inspiration from there, and there's nothing wrong with those things. I personally like to visit gardens. So you guys will know that I have a whole playlist called Gardens of Distinction, and a lot of times they're gardens that are open to the public, like Longwood or Chanticleer and that sort of thing. And that's where I go and I get inspiration of varying types. So when I go places like Longwood, you can't really, unless you have 5 acres. Like if I had 5 acres, I would totally go full on botanical garden. But I can't do that. I don't have enough space. So a lot of times when I'm going to Longwood, I'm really looking for plant recommendations. So if I see a plant that I like, that I would like to incorporate in my garden, that's what I'm doing. So I have a wish list of plants that I've seen that I want to add to my garden. And a lot of public gardens are like that because they tend to be more botanical in nature. But some of the gardens in my local area are houses where the family was wealthy. They had a personal garden that was large, and now it's open to the public, so that because that's how they maintain the historical property. And some of those I do get some design inspiration for, because they weren't created originally as a botanical garden. They were created as somebody's personal garden. And so in some ways the gardens are very personable. They're also very approachable, and you can recreate it. So for example, like Chanticleer, when they're planting it up, they are intentionally using plants that the average person can get their hands on. So they're trying to make it a very accessible type of garden. So if you're looking for inspiration, you can. I've been to Chanticleer a couple of times. Like I found I see all those plants. As a matter of fact, this past time when I went to Chanticleer, like they have the one foxglove that I have everywhere. So it's just really interesting to see, like, oh yeah, I have that one, I've got that one. So it's an approachable garden. So that's and so once again, that's fine. Um then there are private gardens. And so these are gardens that are just homeowners who have nice gardens for whatever reason, and they're opening it to public, usually on a limited basis. So you guys will have already seen one of the videos, the one that's called my visit to Win Eden. That visit to Win Eden, that husband and wife are members of the Hardy Plant Society, and they opened their garden to various garden clubs that are a part of. And so you've already seen that one. I'm going to probably I actually really need to do a sit down, like live on that particular garden, because it was, and show you guys some pictures, because I didn't take a lot of video because I was talking to my mom. So I was doing like just straight time elapse. But there was aspects that I did take pictures of. So I would like to actually kind of slow down and kind of go through it. But that was very inspiring because, most everybody's yard has challenges. It could be a problem area, like I have thicket. It could be just uneven landscape. You may have like a dead tree stump in the front of your yard, like I do. And sometimes when you're planning, you kind of get to like a roadblock. And what's great is when I started visiting other gardens, I saw people who took those elements that I thought were a problem and actually incorporated them into the garden in a very unique way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not that's not a problem. That's a design element right there. I'm getting ready to make that a focal point. And so it you kind of need that. Because I think when we tend to get into a problem, we think, okay, I'm just going to eliminate this. I'm just going to, mow this down. I'm going to have this re-leveled so I can do something. And that's really, you shouldn't do that. Like if you have, areas of unevenness, use it. I mean, because it ends up incorporated into your garden. Incorporate that design around it, and you'll have a much more unique garden. So I do private garden tours as part of my horticultural society, which is the Hardy Plant Society. But also, there are local gardening clubs in my area that have garden tours. And so I'm trying to think. Usually, there are about 3 or 4 in my area per year. This year, I went to 2. Next year, I'm gonna. There's a couple places that I know do them that I forgot about it, and I didn't realize forgot about getting tickets until much later. So I'm gonna kind of like put those on my calendar so that I can go. A lot of times the tours are, they do cost. It varies. Some of the local ones here, I think the one that I'm getting ready to show you the video for tomorrow, that was $25. But then I went to one that was later on in the summer that was only like $8. With the Hardy Plant Society, the main one we do in June is free, but then there are pop-up tours, and a lot of times they can range anywhere from like $5 to $15. So it's just, because sometimes there is a banquet, there's a reception, so that's how we pay for food. So it just really depends. So, but it's all good. So I would encourage you guys to join some first off, go to gardening clubs, and see which one you like. Because there's a difference between horticultural societies and gardening clubs. Horticultural societies are definitely people who I would say are like, everyone in a horticultural society is definitely what I would consider to be an extreme gardener. Most people in horticultural societies are like, why on earth would you have lawn? Well, at least in the Hardy Plant Society, they're just like, why would you have lawn? Who needs lawn? Put some flowers there. And that's kind of how they tend to approach it. And so with horticultural clubs, people really are studying plants, the plant science. They're very much into experimentation. If you have an issue in your garden, if you're part of a horticultural society, like you can ask a question, like you're going to get answers. But the thing is, you're not going to get just answers all over the place. Everybody's going to have similar answers because it's not just something they ran off the internet. This is tried and true. I've been doing this for 15 years. Here's why this is happening. And so you're going to get a real education. And I love that. I love that about being part of some horticultural societies. And then you have garden clubs. Gardening clubs can vary. Some of them, the people are more hands-on, and some of them, the people are very more like, I'm just going to have a landscape or plant some plants. It really depends. Visit around and define which one is going to appeal to you. There is one garden club, actually, it's the one I'm going to show you. Would I join that garden club? Probably not, because let's put it this way, from what I saw in this tour, there's a couple of people that I think I could hang with, and we would be cool. But for the most part, the other gardens, they're not, we don't have the same level of plants, and that's fine. Everybody has different levels. But sometimes with gardening clubs, and I was discussing this with one of the people at one of the local garden centers I would go to. He was like, well, that's the difference between a gardening club and in a horticultural society. Gardens clubs, the people can just basically be dabbling into gardening, and it's more like a club of people who kind of like plants, whereas horticultural societies tend to be people who are like obsessively into plants and are at the, far extreme. But once again, it just depends upon the flavor, because the second garden tour that I went to, the people were really into gardening, lots of plants. I mean, in terms of enjoyability, even though the second gardening club were not as affluent, I actually enjoyed their gardens a lot better than the one that I was going to show you, because there were so many personal touches and there was just a lot to see. And you just I just sat there, you kind of had to go slowly through the garden, and some of these gardens were very small, but you spent a lot of time. Like, I felt kind of like I had to rush through the gardens because there were so many houses to see on that tour, and I could have taken a lot more time because the gardens were just so pretty, and there was just so many different types of plants and things I had never seen before. So I'm like, wait, I want, what's that? So I did add a lot of plants to my wish list. So anyway, that's where I get my inspiration from. I am in I am incorporating new plants. I'm incorporating new elements into my garden because of all the tours that I went on this year. And this year, let's see, I think I visited maybe 20 private gardens, so it's a lot. And I know there's some other ones coming up, so I'm probably not done. But yeah, I went to a lot, and guys, it was absolutely worth it. So, if you guys, I know I did a podcast on this topic, and it was when I first started out on this whole gardening Instagrammer thing, and so nobody listened to it. But if you go onto iTunes and look for the Vintage Gardener podcast, one of the first episodes is not so secret. It's called Not So Secret, Not So Secret Societies. And that is my discussion on horticultural societies, and I list a lot of the ones that are local. So with gardening clubs, those are typically by towns. Quite frankly, I think Home Depot may have a gardening club. You'd have to look into it. I've never done that one. The other thing is, those are gardening clubs. Now, if you want something a little bit more like a society, look for, you can obviously look for, like, for example, I'm in southern New Jersey, so there's a South Jersey Horticultural Society. I'm part of the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. I'm part of the Hardy Plant Society. I'm part of the Central Carolina Chrysanthemum Society. There's other ones, like, for example, there's the West Jersey Rose Society, which I had been a member. I kind of let it lapse. I may go back to it, especially now that I'm doing rose garden. Also, there's the Greater Philadelphia Dahlia Society. So there are certain plants that have societies. So for example, I just remembered the one, and I haven't joined, and it's kind of sad because the president lives right down the street, or for the chapter lives right down the street. It's the Daylily Society. There's a South Jersey Daylily Society, and then let's see. There is a Hosta Society. There's the Peony Society. So there's a lot of different societies out there, and obviously, the ones that are plants, although they specialize in one plant, everybody in there is a gardener. They grow other types of plants, but generally they study, they study those plants. They study those disease issues with those plants, and quite frankly, a lot of disease issues don't kind of affect more than one plant. So it's that information is useful to every part of your garden. So at the end of the day, I would recommend that you start there. So I'm gonna try to link that podcast in the description, so if you guys want to go back and listen to it. And I apologize because it's one of my earlier podcasts, to get some ideas, because I went through a fairly extensive list of all of societies in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, but hopefully it'll give you some ideas as to where you can start in terms of that. And guys, please look up gardening clubs and that sort of thing. I know sometimes gardening can almost be a very individual type of hobby, because a lot of people aren't into it. I think a little bit of that is changing because a lot of people got into it with COVID, but sometimes it's hard to know where to turn. And the Instagram community and the social media communities can be nice because you're finding other people, but it's really nice to have groups that are local. So even, like, for example, on Facebook, I'm part of some local, like there's a South Jersey gardeners group. There's also the Seeds with Friends, which is like really local to me. And, you know, I know the Seeds with Friends group had a meetup. It's just that I was unavailable that particular day. But it's really nice to actually connect with people and that sort of thing, to go out and do things with. And not to mention, because if you have issues, if they're local to you, they're probably experiencing the exact same thing, and you guys can kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So anyway, guys, I hope so. Hopefully, I hope that inspires you to go out and look into these new resources. So I'm posting this video today, which is Wednesday. Tomorrow, I'm going to post the Morristown garden club tour that I did. Saturday will be my regular video, and then on Sunday I'm going to do a live. And the live that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take photographs, that because I took a lot of photographs of elements in those gardens, and I'm going to actually do a live and kind of discuss those, what I liked about it, um, you know, what I thought was interesting about it, if there's any parts of the design or even plants that I can incorporate into my garden, then I'll be discussing it that way. And I'll be doing this for pretty much every set of garden tours that I do. So anyway, guys, I'm sorry for all the talking, but once again, I didn't want to make the next video longer. So join me on Thursday, and then of course, and join me on Saturday, of course, for the weekly video, but most importantly, join me on Sunday so that you guys we can look at these photos. And if you guys have questions, like, ask the questions, you know, and we can improve our gardens for this 2024 season, because let's face it, guys, I'm planning now for next year. Actually, I'm starting now for next year. So anyway, guys, I'll see you later. Have a happy Wednesday.